So, hello everybody. Happy to be here with you again. My name is Joshua Ishaq. I'm a health and fitness behavior change coach. I work with incredible women from all over the globe, helping them achieve their health and fitness goals. So today's topic is another topic that I see a lot, right? And it's often a topic that a lot of people struggle with. So I figured, you know what, I'll do a live on this and hopefully shed some insights that may be helpful for you. Now, if you're here watching live, please say hello. If you're watching this on replay, hashtag replay, so other people can have access to this video, because I really think this could be helpful. Especially for us busy moms, because this is my experience. It's not for everybody, but for the busy moms that I work with, it's something that comes up often, and it's often something that we work through in my programs, and that is cravings. Now, first, let me say this: to crave something is not a bad thing, right? Because like I always say, food is more than calories. Food is part of our culture, part of our upbringing, part of our memories. You smell something, you eat something, and it takes you back to your childhood. You smell something, you eat something, and it reminds you of your grandmother's cooking or your mom's cooking, or it reminds you about a period of time that you forgot about. So food is such an important part of our lives that goes beyond calories. So we don't just eat for calories, right? And it's really important to understand that. And sometimes we may crave something purely because we love that food item, or we want to remember something. And sometimes we're craving something for a comfort, right? You have a bad day at work. You just want to come home to a chocolate bar, right? You eat it and it's done, khalas, is over, right? Or you come home to a nice hot bowl of soup, whatever soup that you like. You're looking for that comfort, and this is normal. There is nothing wrong with this. Okay, so let's not put cravings in this box that is automatically deemed unhealthy, because not all craving is unhealthy, right? We can crave things for so many reasons. And part of the normal reasons for cravings, before I get into the stuff that we want to keep an eye out for. Now, if you find yourself craving and you're wondering, wow, why do I crave? I've eaten. Why do I still want to eat something else? Then, number one, you may want to look at your main meals, right? Are your main meals, are they, number one, filling you up? Right, you get full up from them. Number two, are you satisfied with them? There's a difference between being full up and being satisfied, right? It's not just about filling up your tummy, but you want to be satisfied with your meal. Like, yeah, I had a meal that I really enjoyed. It really satisfied, but it also filled me up. So if you find yourself craving between meals, and you're wondering why, the first step is to look at your main meals. Are your main meals filling you up to a point where you're comfortable? We don't really want to overeat, right? So are they filling you up? Number two, are they satisfying you, right? Another reason that people tend to crave is during at the different points of their menstrual cycle. For some people, it's right before their period starts. And for some, this can be normal. There's nothing to worry about, right? So if this is you, then you know that, okay, closer to the first day of my cycle, maybe like a week before, I tend to crave sugary stuff. A lot of people do. Not everybody. I have athletes who crave nothing. They're absolutely fine, right? Like myself, I don't really have things that I crave for closer to my period, but some people do crave sugary stuff, and that is normal. If you want to control this, then plan ahead. If you know, okay, closer to my cycle, I tend to crave chocolate and this and that and that. How can I plan around this? If I say I want to lose weight or be healthy, how can I put strategies in place so I I can plan around this time to make sure that I'm not consuming too many calories and stuff like that. Again, this is something to be worked on an individual basis and is part of my coaching in the program. So these are the two very normal reasons why you may have cravings, right? You may not be totally full up from your meals, and you may not be satisfied with your meals. Number two, it could just be that time of the month where you crave stuff, and that is normal. Now, the other two ways that we may crave things, and these are the two scenarios that we want to be mindful of. And the first thing is, if we use food as a coping mechanism, right? If we use food as a means to regulate our emotions, and I see this a lot in my moms before they join my programs and stuff like that, is that, they may be eating really well, exercising and doing really amazing in their journey. And then stressful situations happen in their life, whether something happens at work or something happens with a kid or any situation that stresses them out, and they find themselves craving for usually sugary stuff or salty stuff and stuff like that. They go towards those foods, and there's a reason for that. And we know from the evidence that these foods light up the reward centers of our brain. This is why we gravitate to them, right? And these women, they use these foods as a coping mechanism because, hey, if I'm eating, this food is making me feel good momentarily, and that's what I want right now. Now, that can be okay if it happens sometimes. However, if food is the only way that you know how to cope with stress, then you may want to rethink about that. There are other things that you can use as a coping mechanism, as means to regulate your emotions, as means to give you a comfort outside food, right? So stuff you could experiment with is things like journaling, things like going for walks, things like hugging someone close to you, or even hugging yourself, and things like breathing. All of these things have been shown to actually make you feel better. But here's the thing. A lot of us don't slow down enough. Okay, I'm going to repeat this. A lot of us don't slow down enough to be able to think, okay, I'm not going to use food right now. I'm going to do this thing instead to feel better. We don't slow down enough to that. Why? When we are in that state of stress, we become reactive, right? You're reacting to that stress. Oh my God, I'm stressed. And before you know it, you've finished a whole bowl of ice cream or a whole packet of cookies because you reacted to that stress. You didn't respond to that stress. If you respond to that stress, you'd allow yourself a few moments to just breathe and think. The pause between the stimulus, whatever you're feeling, right, and your response to that stimulus, all it takes is a pause, right? So take a few moments, breathe and think, okay, I am stressed right now. My normal pattern is to react to this stress, and I react towards this stress by grabbing whatever that's in front of me. But I want to change this. How can I do this? Slow down, breathe, and think. Because if your usual habit, again, this goes back to habits, right? Emotional eating is a habit, right? If your normal behavioral pattern is stress, food, stress, food, stress, food, then that's why you'll automatically go back to every single time. That will be your reaction to the trigger. The trigger is stress, right? The reaction is eating. If you want to change this relationship, you need to be able to put a pause between the trigger, right, and that reaction. That is the only way you'll be able to break this habit. And again, it's part of the coaching. Right, so the first step, if you're someone who emotionally eats out of stress, the next time you feel stressed, I want you to practice this. Pause, breathe, right? spend some time exploring what it is that you're feeling. We may be feeling so many things other than stress. We have a tendency to group all the feelings in one thing, right? You may think you're stressed, but it could be something else. You could be upset, you could be angry, it could be all these other things, right? Try to kind of really get curious about, number one, what is it that I'm actually feeling, right? Number two, what can I do outside food that can make me feel better? Then from there, you can start experimenting with things like journaling or go for a walk. Do a quick 2-minute exercise. Like we've seen exercise be so helpful when it comes to changing mood, right? If you're there with someone, your kid, your husband, your partner, whoever it is, hug them. Take a few seconds to breathe. Allow your nervous system to calm down so you can make better decisions, right? So this is the first way where cravings may not be healthy, because if your response to stress or emotions and you're looking for ways to regulate your emotions, if the only way is through food, then you may want to change that, because here's also what tends to happen is there's guilt attached to that, right? You're going, then after you've eaten whatever you've eaten, then you're going, oh my God, I wish I didn't eat all that. Then you beat yourself about it, right? So now you're beating yourself about it to make yourself feel better because you've been beating yourself about it. Guess what you're going to do? Yeah, eat more food to feel better. So the cycle becomes this vicious cycle that doesn't stop. And the only way to stop is, number one, is to respond to the whatever that is triggering you. Respond to that stress, respond to that anger, respond to that frustration, as opposed to reacting to it. And the only way you can respond to it is by pausing between the trigger and the action that you're going to take. So you can actually think about the action as opposed to just grabbing that food item. Okay, so this is the first way. The second way that I see cravings happen a lot is in people who are so restricted in their diets and have a poor relationship with food. Look, I use this example all the time, and I'm going to use it again because I think it explains this really well. I don't like pizza. Actually, I don't like biryani either. I know people may find that weird, but I don't like pizza. But if you tell me, Yusra, you're not allowed to have pizza, pizza is the only thing that I'm going to want to eat. If you tell me, Yusra, you're not allowed to have biryani, biryani is the only thing that I want to eat. We know from studies that what you restrict is what will persist. What you'll restrict is what you'll want more of. We also know from studies that people who restrict things too much are the people who have a higher BMI, who have an unhealthy relationship with food, who have body image issues, who are more at risk with eating disorders, right? The moment you see a food item and you label it as dirty or unclean or unhealthy or cheat meal or whatever these labels that people love to give in this industry, you give it power. The moment you do that, you give it power. Now, when you're on a restrictive diet and you've told yourself, I'm going to cut out sugar, and you're someone who likes cakes and cookies and all of these things, I'm going to cut out sugar, I'm going to cut out rice, I'm going to cut out chapati because these things are unhealthy and they're causing my weight gain. So you're choosing to cut all of them out. How long do you think you can keep that up? Not long enough. And we see this all the time. You can keep it up for a week, for a couple of weeks. Eventually you're going, oh my God, this is too hard. Oh my God. Then what you tend to do is you binge on all of those things that you've been trying to restrict because you've labeled them in some way. And by labeling them, you've given them more power. Right? I mean, I see in my programs, people lose a ridiculous amount of weight without me even changing their nutrition in any way. Like I haven't even touched the nutrition. All we worked on is changing the relationship with food, and now suddenly cake is just cake. A cookie is just a cookie. They build this power of choice. Say, you know what? It's just cake. It's there. It's not going anywhere. If I choose to have it, I can have it. Nobody's stopping me from having it, right? If I choose not to have it, I don't have to have it. And that's it. A lot of us miss this power of choice, and we think we should do this and shouldn't do that and shouldn't do that. And that alone makes this journey so much harder, and it messes up our relationship with food. And this is why you'll find yourself, the moment you tell yourself you're on a diet and you're cutting stuff out, is when you're going to be the most preoccupied with food, right? It's when you're going to want that chocolate ice cream more than you've ever wanted it before. It's when you find yourself not being able to stop eating those cookies, because in your head you're thinking, oh my God, I can't eat this, but I want more of them. It's almost like you're telling yourself, I shouldn't have this, but I want them, and all of these things, right? Stop. Stop. You have unconditional permission to eat all of these things. You can be absolutely healthy and lose weight and eat your cookies and cakes and all of these things. It's not about cutting them out. You have unconditional permission to eat whatever you want. The weight loss is going to come in is when it comes to how much of it. So you have unconditional permission to eat what you want, but you don't have unconditional permission to eat everything. You have unconditional permission to eat anything, but not an unconditional permission to eat everything. What do I mean by that? I mean, you can't want to lose weight and sit down and have a whole cake and a whole cookie and a whole bowl of ice cream at the same time. That doesn't work. There has to be some sort of restraint. I said restraint, not restriction. There's a difference there. Restriction is, oh my God, I can't have chocolate cake, I can't have rice, I can't have chapati, I can't have XYZ because I'm trying to lose weight. That's restriction. That is not helpful. That is what causes you to crave even more of these things. And that is what can mess up your relationship with food. Restraint is, you know what, I'm trying to lose weight. I'm trying to manage my calories. So I'm going to have a slice of chocolate cake. Or, you know what, I'm trying to lose weight. I'm trying to manage my caloric intake and focus on things like, whole foods and stuff like that. So I'm going to have a couple of cookies instead of a whole box of cookies. That is restraint. But the only way you can get restraint and have this power of choice is by first mending your relationship with food. That's it. When you don't mend your relationship with food, when you label food in some way, it's going to be really hard to practice restraint. All you're going to do is binging on those foods. So you're going to have these periods where you're restricting these foods to binging them, restricting to binging. So the pendulum is running on either ends of the extremes now. There's no middle ground for you. You're either over-restricting them or you're either overeating them. But when you heal your relationship with food, you were then able to restrain them and make that choice and say, you know what, it's chocolate cake. I don't have to have it now. I can have it tomorrow. Oh, you know what, I can have a couple of cookies. That's fine. You're able to practice restraint. Okay? Because again, with this, the second part as well, what you see in people, there's also that guilt associated with this. So essentially what I'm trying to say, if you're eating something that you've craved and there's a guilt associated with it after eating it, then that guilt is an alarm. That is a red flag to say something is wrong here. Something is up. It's that guilt that is attached to it that you want to keep an eye on. Okay, so again, the two ways that you may want to keep an eye when it comes to craving. Number one, if food is the only way that you're regulating your emotions, if you don't have any other way, and you crave food whenever you're stressed or tired or any whatever reason that you may have, okay, you want to look at this. Number two, if you're in a restrictive diet and you're finding yourself moving the pendulum from one end to the other, over restriction to overeating, overeating, then you want to mend your relationship with food. Okay, so I hope this was helpful. Again, these are the stuff that we coach in, we go heavily deep in my programs, and these are worked on a one-to-one basis because we are different humans with different experiences. No one solution is going to be for everybody. So this live is great at giving you insights and stuff like that. But if you've tried to work on this yourself and you found it difficult, reach out. Let's have a conversation to see any of my programs can help you in this. Trust me, like I said before, I've had people join my programs, and before we even get into improving their nutrition, just by mending their relationship with food, they've shed a lot of weight. Why? Because now they're not overeating. They're not overeating because now they're not using food as a coping mechanism. Now they know that if they want cake, they can have cake. And it's incredible when someone finally understands that actually I can have cake. That is so powerful and empowering. And it actually makes the journey so much easier. Okay? All right, that's it from me. Until next time, I'll talk to you guys later. Bye-bye.